start with the minutes of January 25th.
And I make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 25th?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed or abstaining? All right, I had on the agenda another set of minutes from the meeting that we had with the columns. I didn't get them there. So.
Who posted that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that?
That was what date?
It's in the agenda. February 2nd. Whatever that meeting was, I haven't done the minutes. Okay, so next on the agenda is to report on the February 4th meeting with the Halifax and Kingston Finance Committees. I think I was the only one who was able to go. So each town just kind of reviewed where they were in terms of revenue and budgets. Halifax and Kingston both seem to have a structural deficit where they do not have enough money to fund the budgets as they are now. And Halifax in particular wants to see reductions in the Silver Lake budget. There was a lot of discussion about that. There were representatives from Silver Lake there. The superintendent was there, the business manager, the people from the boards of selectmen. There was also discussion about the impacts the charter schools are having on the budgets. There's quite a bit of money, and if we have time, we can look at it, or I'll send it, being diverted to pay for charter school tuition as the kids leave the district, and that's a concern. And their concern, this Silver Lake concern is if they have to make cuts in programs, they think they'll lose more people to charter schools, which sort of becomes an ongoing cycle. There was a lot of discussion about fixed costs, particularly their contracts. And apparently all the teachers' contracts are available on the Department of Revenue website. And some people from Kingston had looked and said that Silver Lake has a lot of steps and lanes. So that in the salary chart, you start in a certain lane depending on your education. You have a master's and 100 credits. And then there's steps throughout that. And because there's so many, in addition to whatever the yearly percent raise you get, you're also getting a step raise for many, many, many years. So John Creed said that the average teacher actually gets about 6% a year in increase, and that there needs to be some way to address that in order to keep the costs from every year. I mean, this year alone they have $500,000 or $600,000 in costs just because of their contracts, and it's just an unsupportable increase. So there's a lot of discussion about that, and the conclusion, the message to Silver Lake was that it looks like towns need them to reduce their budgets, and they had their public hearing. I did not go, and I think they just presented that same budget, so I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go.
Have they voted the budget?
I don't think so. And so for Silver Lake, there's 3 towns in the region. If 2 towns vote the budget, all 3 have to pay the assessments. And then normally Kingston would vote first. Halifax has the second town meeting. Ours was the third. But Kingston has voted to delay all their money articles till June. So Halifax will vote first, we'll vote second, and I'll vote third on the budget. Okay, so was there any questions or discussion? We have time, we can go back and we have, let me open it real quick if I can find it.
Kingston is voting in, when did you say, in June?
June. Yeah.
On financial issues or?
All the financial stuff. So this was apparently handed out, and I can forward it again, at the meeting last Thursday. Like I said, I wasn't there. Commission statements, and we can go over this in depth later, but this is the data for the charter schools enrollment in the last 5 years, so it's going up quite a bit. Plympton's has not changed a lot, but the pinkish line.
Can you go back to that for a second?
Yeah,
Sue?
sure.
So is it,
Kids should look at their schools.
is it
Yeah.
from the elementary?
That says 7 to 12.
No, because, yes, this is the secondary schools. Rising Tide in Plymouth is added
Right.
secondary school, and then they lose them to the school in Cape that does the IB program, Sturgis. And there's another school, I can't remember, that they're losing them.
So is it the proximity for Kingston, that it's just as easy to get them to Rising Tide as it is to?
You'd actually have to look at that as a percent of enrollment. I mean, Halifax and
Oh, right,
Kingston
right,
enrollments,
right,
I mean,
right.
percentage-wise, I don't know.
Never mind, you're right, yep.
Well, we're 11% and Kingston's about half, so it still seems a little higher, but I mean, theirs seems to be increasing.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the trend.
And even though these are students in charter schools attending grades 7 through 12, they may have been in the charter schools through elementary
Right.
and just continuing with the
Right.
charter schools.
That's true, yep. So they didn't have the secondary schools locally before, that's true, as they're adding the programs. And then this was the dollar analysis of that.
And do we pay for charter school? Do we, the same as VOTEC, do we pay when kids go
We
to
don't
charter
pay,
school?
but the money that would come to us for
Goes to
aid
them.
goes to them. And then we also get some tuition reimbursement, I think, for the first 3 years, but I think that's being phased out or something, I'm not sure. So you can see right in this line is the total expense, which is the tuition we lose minus, I guess, what we get back.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And the percentage, if you look at this bottom line, is, 11%, 1.1, I'm sorry, 1.5, 2.1, so there is a trend. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is cost per pupil analysis. These are other districts that they consider good as comps for us, basically. And again, we can look at this more carefully when we meet with that budget. This is,
Okay.
and I'll forward this. The process for determining the Silver Lake budget and then the assessment stuff is extremely complicated. There's all this required minimum contributions. This is revenue. So this is the draft assessments. This is what each town's gonna actually have to pay this is on their draft
Can you
budget.
make this a little bigger so?
Oops, it's like on my screen, it makes that.
That's better.
Is that better? So here, this is the operating budget, and then exempt capital is the debt exclusion, I think. I'm not sure.
So our budget in Plympton's gone up 6.9%.
At this stage, yeah.
That's a big increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quick look at that.
Okay.
And just from the dollar increase down here right now.
I just, I don't know what's the matter with it. I've got another one.
Throw one in here.
I've got one, I'll just throw that one out.
Bless you.
But if you look at down here, there's a $117,000 increase for Plympton. We have about $300,000 in revenue compared to last year, more revenue. So that's a big chunk of available revenue. So that's another thing we have to kind of look at. All right, that away. So then we had a meeting, with the community compact people. We have 3 grants. One is a 5-year capital plan. One is a revenue projections. Is that 5 years, I think? And then development of financial policies. We met with the people from the Collins Center that were going to be doing it, and we were kind of hashing out with a lot of people, the treasurer, the accountant, there, how this was going to proceed, what information they need, and what sort of what the timeline is, and the part of the big issue right now, and this is all going to tie into our meeting at 6:30 with the selectmen, is whether to keep moving forward with the building project, which at this point is a police station project for this year, and hire a consultant. I'll get back to that, but and so we were at the meeting. We were sort of trying to back, not we, the group was trying to back dates in if we were going to do that. When would they have? When could we have these projections from them and stuff? And then the discussion changed to the fact that this is sort of a one-time opportunity for us to get a lot of good financial help, information, planning, a program where we can put raises in and it'll show us what the bottom line is going to be, a lot of forecasting tools we don't have, and advice about their capital needs and how to do those capital projects over time. And to rush that and then try to rush a project to town meeting might not be the smartest way to approach it. So there's discussion about, well, do we delay that police station vote to a year and try to do this in a more thoughtful way. And that hasn't been decided, but that's something that might be discussed tonight with the selectmen. And we'll get back to that in a minute.
I actually, too, had, just because we are gonna be discussing it, do you wanna wait? We're gonna talk about it more?
Yeah.
I just think that there's a concern that to look at the police station as a single entity right now and how to fund that without taking into consideration that we need to a fire department.
I completely agree with you.
So if it means we have to put it all off for a year so we see the full picture, I think that is so important than to have somebody come in right now and just give us what it's gonna take to do the police department, how we can fund it, and then what happens with the fire department? How do we fund it? We're back right where we are right now.
Right.
So that was just my feeling out of the whole meeting that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, to build two infrastructures seems to be utterly ridiculous at this point. But I think you're right. I think it probably right now is a good time to put off decision making until we have more professional advice.
And have time to digest it and,
Right.
and present it to the community and get input and do a thoughtful process.
Right.
I agree. Actually, I'm going to turn this over to Lisa. So we're going to take a quick look at the budget so far, and we have some more budget information What I do, so I save this, I saved that you did. What I do is I incrementally date them so that I can know. So I'll just go and
File it and save it as a
I'll
date.
just save this today, it's not like we have any screw up we have. The last one. So, and while that's up, we can take a quick look at the revenue projection.
This one.
Just lift the computer, that's okay. So you can take a look.
What do you wanna look at, did you say first?
Well,
Revenue?
the revenue is up, we
Okay.
can take a quick look at, so this is,
We added a column in here, so you'll see this actual 2016. So the estimate, this is what we based our budget on last year, with the bottom line here. And this is actual numbers that it ended up being. I thought that was pretty, this is the first year we've ever actually really looked at, what we projected and based the budget on and what we actually had for income. Which, that's not a lot of money based on the size budget, the difference, but it's good that we were conservative enough that there's more money than we planned on and not less.
Yeah.
And then the last column is the estimate for 2017, which really, we could compare to this number to see the difference, right, sir? This number and this number.
actual.
Well, the actual isn't what we based our budget on. though.
Right, no, okay, yeah.
So really, we have an increase from column I to column K. But still, normally we would just input the actual numbers in there and not even worry about what was estimated.
And the other thing to keep in mind is I think that's levying to the limit, right?
What is
That's-
this?
isn't that using the
Is this
entire-
revenue? Is this
This is revenue.
expenditures?
This
This
is
is just revenue, all
revenue.
right.
Is this using, this would be levying to the limit, right? No.
I don't know what the column, okay,
You
Oh,
can,
yeah, we don't see
maybe
the,
you can condense, like hide FG and H or something?
yeah.
Or just-
Well, can you freeze it?
yeah, you can freeze them.
Freeze the,
I'll just hide.
or you can hide
this.
it.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the levy, I think
The
it's,
levy base
it's
is the
assuming a
full,
full
yeah.
increase, and then
So-
we try not to fund to the end of it, right?
So we did not last year levy the full amount that we can because, and we still had a significant tax increase. This becomes an ongoing problem, so, and Marilyn can probably do this better than me. Every year, how much you're allowed to collect goes up 2.5%. And if you don't spend it all, it still goes up that 2.5%. So we didn't spend all that we could last year, so now we have more than 2.5% in space.
Last year we tried to keep it around 5, and I think the maximum would have been about 9, right? 7.5. I forget.
I thought it was like
Seven,
yeah.
7.5.
I think so.
7.5. We could have raised taxes. We tried to keep it at 5.
So that's to keep that in
Percent.
mind with this revenue projection. This is if we levy everything we can.
Snow and ice was right on budget last year, which is actually pretty amazing considering the year,
Considering the winter, yeah.
Yeah,
which would make you think that hopefully this year will be under.
Yeah, we're not through it yet though.
I know.
They'll hear me.
Yes, we are, we're done. And just to keep repeating information, the snow and ice line is the only line you're allowed to
Lower
deficit spend.
Yeah.
So we budget it, most towns do, we budget it at $40,000. We know it's gonna run higher than that, but if you budget it at some level this year, you have to budget the same level next year, so we don't wanna bump it up. And we just, in this projection accounts for the fact that we're gonna have, it's gonna be much higher than we actually budget for. So that's kind of the revenue. And if you have questions about like the different sources are and stuff, Marilyn's an expert.
Go to the budget?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to the top.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so we have the line items over here. We have fiscal year 13, 14, 15, 16, and these are the requests for 17. As we working, we'll fill in this column as we decide what we're gonna recommend. The columns that highlight, the cells that are highlighted in yellow are cells that we have not received prior to tonight budgets for, so I just level funded them for now.
So in that first group, group health didn't increase for a couple of years, much for a couple of years, I think at all, actually, may have been added people in 16, but, and what they were doing was using reserves to keep the increase from happening, and now they don't have any reserves. And so originally she recommended a 5% increase. You can see on the right there, the treasurer has now recommended 12%. The town administrator manager in Halifax is actually recommending that they carry 20% for that increase. So we'll know that number before town meeting, but and that's nothing we can control. That's just set and we have to pay it. And actually, all those lines are lines we don't have any.
So that's the town portion of the employee insurance
Yeah,
that's negotiated.
Plymouth County.
It's Plymouth County, yeah, okay,
Plymouth
all right,
County.
yeah.
And we pay them in a state minimum, which is 50% of the premium, so it's pretty, that's low. So,
Next section is general government. Again, the ones that aren't in yellow and have zero, those departments have told us they can level fund their budgets this year. For the most part, I was pleased with a lot of the budgets that came in. I think people realize the shape, the fiscal shape, and
What's 23%?
Council on Aging.
council on
It's,
aging. It's
Is that the
mostly,
salary that caused the increase? Is that her salary in that line?
well,
we can look at the specific.
was the salary in the line last year? Or was it separate, the $5,000?
It was I think it was a warrant article, wasn't it?
Wait, didn't she speak and request?
I think it was, so
She
that would be
voted
part
on
of the
that?
reason that this has increased so much.
That's what I was wondering.
Because if the $5,000 was in here last year, this would have been at 31.5.
Mhm.
So in other words, the first year when you set a new position, you have to vote it as a warrant article,
Mhm.
so that it would have, so now it would be, if that's what's happening,
Yeah,
so
that's
we
why
add
that
it in.
percentage is as
Yeah,
high as it was,
probably,
because
yeah.
really the only extras that they're looking for was the $500 for more classes that they're offering, more health classes, exercise classes. The rest were just, I think she did 2% increase in the salary and some extra money for maintenance on the van.
And that may actually come off now, because we'll talk about that later too.
Everybody good with this section?
Yep.
For now? Next is the assessors. So what's the drop? Do you know the drop in the assessors expense? So how do I
you
get
have
to
the sheet?
worksheets here?
Go to, go to the file thing at the bottom.
Down here?
Yep. And then go to department budget requests.
Assessors. That was the assistant assessor.
It's not, it's blurry, a little bit blurry on the computer too, actually.
Oh, it's probably a bad, inspector's budget, one of the lines has some huge increase. A year or so ago, it was to renovate the kennel, which is actually his house. This year, he's asking for an hourly increase in a stipend, based on 365 hours, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which is what that big increase is for. So we have to address this kind of every year, so, and we will, so. We never hear from them.
And if you notice, pretty much they stay level funded, which is probably what'll happen again this year.
So I shouldn't bother trying to get in touch with them, is that what you're saying?
They said
You could ask him.
Ask him if he's just saying, you planning on staying level funded again this year?
Or you could say,
Does anyone
you
know
are
what you
planning
want?
on staying level
Yeah,
funded
exactly.
again this year, aren't you?
So, does anybody want to follow up with the tree warden? Does anybody know?
I don't even know who the tree warden is.
Can we, you can just get his phone number?
I can get, yeah, we'll get it.
It's Bill Hayes, right?
It's okay, so, okay.
Will I be able to get a copy of the assessor's proposed budget before I talk to them?
I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
If I, remind me if I forget.
All right.
Okay. Here's the biggie, and Nathaniel, you're up. The fire department hasn't submitted a
Wow.
budget yet, which is, and it's past time, so are you interested in trying to ask him to do that, please?
Yep.
We could mention it to the selectmen tonight too,
I will, yeah, let's take it.
so we'll have a budget.
That's very
for the
nice.
department. The police lines,
His salary's is being negotiated, that's why it's,
and the vehicle line we'll have to look at,
Yeah.
because then
it seems.
it varies because of a car coming on, a new lease
Lease.
that will be on the warrant, and then it comes over here,
Yeah.
so sometimes he puts money in here and then realizes it should be on the warrant, so that we'll have to look at again too.
Because it should be, I think, 2 high years and 1 low, right? I'm not sure. I think last year he delayed a lease a year. If you look back, it's like 80, 80, 60, right? Last year, I think he was due to lease a car and didn't he defer it? Is that what that is? And so we're back up to 80, which would make sense.
Maybe.
I think that's what it was, I
Excuse
got
me,
the,
you have those
she
for-
apologized, yes, and she, Okay, so.
Veterans
600. That is level funded.
Okay.
605 is level funded. 610 is decreased to $55,000.
Huh?
And she wrote a note that she anticipates, because she's lost clients, and having about $25,000 left at the end of this year in her budget that she won't have used. She can't predict exactly, but.
Can we, the veterans agent line, which is level funded, didn't we decide last year that we were gonna start giving that whatever increase the?
The 2%. But
Yeah,
why would you say
whatever we-
lower if it's-
Yeah, we'll leave it like that, but let's remember that we should adjust that if the wage and personnel brings an increase this year.
Okay, so I got the wrong sheets.
Library director, she's
I have the
but-
sheets.
salary expenses, salary increases. She's got, and I spoke to her and I agree with her wholeheartedly. She's got people working there who've been working with her for a lot of years. They get minimal increases. There are no step increases, even though their jobs have changed, become much more advanced and they're doing a lot more work. And they're not on level with other people in the town. They're not being paid what other people in the town are being paid. So she's looking to increase, like a step increase. They're all at the very bottom of their pay range, except for the director. She's negotiating with the wage and personnel, because if she were to get that kind of an increase, it would put her out of her range.
Is she negotiating with wage and personnel about the other people too?
Well, she is talking to them about that too,
Wage and
but
personnel.
she could actually give them those increases and they would still be in their range.
Oh, they would?
Yes, or maybe, definitely, she said they're at
But
the
it
very
has to-
bottom of their range.
But typically we ask wage and personnel to make those recommendations. I mean, if they recommend against this, we have to,
Yes,
it-
yeah,
give
yeah,
some, let's see
right,
what they
we'll have
have
to-
to
yep.
say, yeah.
Yep.
It looks like she has there's an increase in the materials line, a couple
Well,
$1,000.
that line is based upon the other lines.
Right,
So if other expenses go up, the materials line has to be a certain percentage in order to stay state approved.
gas,
Sort of
is gas like the heat? Why is that not put in with the selectmen do the utility lines? I assume gas is probably, yeah,
I kind of remember something about, there's some reason that the selectmen know that that's separate and left it separate. I
Okay.
can't remember why.
We'll see if
We can maybe ask Dale tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Next is elementary school.
Their budget is, their special education costs are decreasing, which is, it's a year to enjoy, because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
And it'll help us a lot.
And it's very, so that's, if you notice, a few years back, we pulled, well, quite a few now, we pulled special, it doesn't feel that long, special ed out of the regular budget and made it a separate line like this. If we were to go back, which we've gotten rid of those columns now, but if you were to go back and look at old budgets, they used to be combined with the elementary school costs. And you notice the up and down, you know, how, so instead of having it affect the kids who go to school, the regular day costs, it's pulled out.
Because what can happen with that line is we can vote whatever the request is now, and a family can move into town in October, and that number can change dramatically. And when they were together, it sort of was expected that they'd somehow compensate out of the elementary line, and now there's sort of an understanding that if that happens, it's not part of the elementary budget, because it's not fair to try to run an elementary school that way. And vocational education, that's again also out of our control. The kids apply, I think the deadline's April 1st, when they find out if they're accepted, and then we have to pay the tuition and transportation costs, which are very, very high, to wherever they want to go. To the
So-
closest program.
So that could conceivably go down or up,
It can, yeah. They
but we'll
said,
know on April 1st.
I think they're predicting the
Vocational
kids that are, I think,
education.
you know, they know if there's somebody graduating or not. for
Right.
next- Yeah, so.
We have a voc ed line in Silver and the high school too? Or is it all here?
No, it's all,
It's
yeah,
all
this
there.
is the, yeah.
Okay,
with the towns.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is another line that has actually gone, it used to be even higher in the past until, South Shore VOTEC closed their program to our towns. Because a lot of kids used to go to South Shore VOTEC, and they're just not accepted anymore. So this is mainly just the agricultural schools that are taking kids.
Yeah, the other thing is the special education line is it's also kids up to age 23. It comes out of this part of the budget, it doesn't come out of the Silver Lake budget, because each town is responsible for their own kids. So if we have a kid who's 21 who's in a placement in Maine, that's coming out of, that's not an elementary cost, but it comes out of that special ed line. So,
Regional school,
that's the-
we talked about that already a little bit. We'll make a decision about reserve funds.
yeah.
That number has been serving us well, and usually we don't, ever since back here, we really haven't had to use the reserve fund that much. People have been living within their budgets the way they're supposed to. But it allows us to do special town meeting things and take money out of that to fund it.
What the reserve fund is for is if somebody, for unforeseen reasons, has an unexpected expense and they run out of money in their budget, if the finance committee can vote to transfer money from this in. So, we always have some money in it, but people have been really good. We haven't had, it can be something totally unforeseen that happens too. But then
And then these last numbers are just given to us from the accountant or the treasurer, and they're fixed.
And last year, if you remember at the town meeting, we paid off some debt in some warrant articles, which is why the principal and interest, we paid off the Dennett roof and the town warrant or something, a couple of things. That's why that line decreased so much. And last year, we paid the Dennett debt exclusion. Oh yeah, we're gonna watch the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go back to that because we actually need to go on to the other stuff. So. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on capital improvement planning. Normally, we do it because we're also the capital improvement planning committee. We've handed it entirely over to the Collins Center this year, so all those requests have gone to them. We haven't seen them. We have to, under the town bylaws, report to the selectmen by March 15th. And what they will get us, and all we do is give them a list because we never know what we're planning to fund and stuff at this point by March 15th. So they will give us a list that we can then give to the selectmen. But hopefully, as we meet with the departments, we can ask them what their capital requests are, because we usually have some idea, and we don't have that information this year. Okay.
What is the Collins Center going to do with these requests that we haven't seen?
They're putting them together into a 5-year plan.
Okay.
But they are supposed, she is gonna get them to us. She said they were
Oh, they're
gonna
gonna
give
give us a copy of it.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that we can see what we have to put
They
into this
just
year's
asked if
budget.
they could collect them on their forms instead of ours. Sure. And it's a 5-year projection.
When are we getting copies? Do we know?
I forget, that she did tell us, and I wanna say, is by the end of this month?
I think it was, yeah,
It was before I think it was before the department meeting started.
Okay.
I'll send her an
Yeah,
email.
because she asked when our department
Yeah.
meeting started, remember? And
They start Monday, so
but we didn't know that, we couldn't remember that
The
night what
date.
the date was,
Yeah.
we had to look it up.
I'll email her and
Okay.
ask her if we can get it. Okay, so let's scoot ahead to the public safety buildings, because we're gonna be meeting with the selectmen at 6:30. The selectmen are meeting with the capital, the whatever it's called, public safety building committee people. So we alluded to before, originally they were looking at a police and fire station projects. Some financial analysis was done that sort of indicated we probably can't afford to do them at the same time. They voted to proceed with the police station only. They don't have cost estimates yet, which is affecting the Collins Center's ability to do the work a little bit. And then the whole discussion about whether to proceed with the police this year or not. And just as a reminder, so presumably that's going to be funded out of the capital stabilization fund, or that's the intent. And in order for that, for articles spending money from the capital stabilization fund to be on the town meeting warrant, they have to be voted positively by the Selectmen, Capital Improvement Planning Committee, and FinCom. So we play an important role here in whatever decisions are made, whether that project actually gets put on the ballot or not. As Lisa was saying back when this was put in place, that was included in it because we didn't want any special, not we, the people on that committee didn't want special interest groups to be able to come forward with big projects that would financially didn't fit into the financial plans. So put that sort of first step in to make sure that everybody's on board before those big projects go to town meeting. So there's the discussion about whether to proceed with it. And last year at town meeting, an article was voted for $25,000 for them to hire a consultant to help them with these building projects. They haven't, I think they spent a small amount of that money on some planning or something, but they have, I think, most of it. And so they issued an RFP for a consultant, and I didn't get a copy of the RFP, but I believe it's for the police station only. It's to do the costing and like some site planning. And so, and the meeting today, so they've gotten a response, they've picked three, some people, a committee picked the three finalists or whatever. And the question is really, are the selectmen, are they gonna award that or not? Is it timely, is it smart to do it now? Was it sort of intended for two buildings and they're only using it, this RFP was only issued for one? Is that more money than is really needed to get the costing and whatever the site planning is? I don't really know what it is for one site. They're also discussing just asking for the firms to just do a cost estimate for the police station, which was, they thought maybe could be done for about $5,000. So that's another thing they're considering. If you're going to delay the building a year, do you proceed with this right now? Because that's a warrant article, that money's available at any time. Has nothing to do with the fiscal year. Should the RFP cover the costing for both buildings?
The money for the consultant, yeah.
The consultant, yeah, that's right. So there's sort of two issues. One is what do we feel about the consultant, and that's kind of part of that's a policy thing that I think isn't a FinCom question. I think the FinCom role is when that warrant article was approved, was it our understanding that was going to fund that work for both buildings, and why is it only being used for one? And then the other issue is, and I don't know if it will come up at that meeting or not, do we as a finance committee, and that other committee was at least previously looking for this input, support this project moving forward this year, the big project moving forward at this year's town meeting. So,
Well, it would be a capital expenditure, so at this point, what would we do? Give them a preliminary idea of how we feel?
I think if yeah, and again, I don't know if it's going to come up tonight, but they asked what is our feeling. I think Marilyn and Lisa and I discussed opinions of people think about whether we should wait a year and wait till the financial planning's in place, or to just get it going, because you need to keep moving forward.
But how can you move forward without any numbers? I mean, it's really pretty simple.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem of hiring this consultant to only do pricing for the police station, because then what does Collins Center use? It's possible they'll come back and say, we figured out a way you can finance both buildings, and who knows, but not if they don't have numbers to do that with. So, and those are huge numbers, and they affect, I'm sure, every other capital project that we're looking at to do, so.
Wasn't one of them 1.3?
Last meeting we went to, it was up to 1.75. It's
Just the police station.
because they don't really have real numbers. That is my quote.
Well, that just reinforces. How can you make any decisions if you don't know? I mean, if you're increasing it by, 60% just because you don't know, how can we make a decision?
Okay, so would it be fair if we're asked to say that we are at this time, in the absence of, firm numbers and in the absence of guidance from the Collins Center, would likely not be in favor of supporting this for this year? Is that fair to say? Anybody think?
I don't see how we can pull it together in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's, the time is just too short. And I mean, not that it's not a worthwhile project, it
Yeah.
really
Oh, no,
is.
yeah, no one's,
We need
yeah.
it.
We all know we need
Yeah,
it.
no, no one is
But I
saying
think it
that.
needs to be done in the best interest of the town as a whole. And the way it gets done is the best interest of the town as a whole is to know the financial effect of it and how it can best be done.
That was nicely put. I nominate you to be our spokesman.
Go for it. And what do we think about the consultant?
I have real concerns with that money being spent to hire a consultant for half the project.
I agree.
I mean,
It seems like a bait and switch almost.
And I thought it was the police department, the fire department, and all of this parking and traffic flow being addressed all at one time. Is it gonna take $25,000 just to do the police station now? That's not how it was presented at town meeting, that's not what was voted by the town.
Well, and if you're a consultant, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I got $25,000 to spend
this project.
on a $10,000 project, do you want it? Sure, well, yeah, who's gonna say no?
So, I don't know, so I guess we'll see what they have to say.
Well, yeah, we'll see where that conversation.
That this is happening at 6:30, this meeting.
Yes,
It's just like,
we got 5 minutes.
it's okay. Well, in 35 minutes, if we could, and I don't remember how to fill this out, but, so we use a software program called Log Me In that allows us to remotely log into this computer. And it went up a whole bunch this year, it was $99. I put it on my credit card because I was logged out, I couldn't get on. And so if we vote and sign this, I can get reimbursed. I can't get reimbursed for the tax, but I can't do it like that's okay.
I make a motion that we approve the warrant for $99 for Log Me In.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay. And I'm gonna abstain.
If I
You just
second,
need
do
to-
I have to aye?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so that's fine. I guess the only.
You can approve a motion, second it, and then vote against it. It's just to get the vote on the floor.
I would do it.
To get the vote.
Oh, yeah.
To get somebody to make the vote happen.
Okay, so at our next meeting, we're scheduled at 5:30 to meet with the selectmen. They have asked us to postpone that. So what we were gonna do is meet
Postpone time or the day?
the day. They need that time slot. So the following Monday, the 29th, we were meeting with the selectmen's representative at 5:30. We're gonna switch that to just meeting with them. So we don't have anybody in the 5:30 time slot next week, but that's okay. I think hopefully we'll have the budget polls and we can go over that. So at 6 is the town clerk and 6:30 is the Dennett School Committee and 7 is the Silver Lake Committee.
Oh, boy.
Probably should confirm those. Yeah, we could actually go over the financial stuff for the Silver Lake. We probably, so, I'll,
So we're meeting here at 5:30.
those departments, the schools, the schools are coming in. Okay.
Better write this, yeah, what I scribbled.
And the only other question it's been discussed for a couple of years. Some towns in their town report publish salaries of their town employees. And whether or not we publish it, for a few years we've discussed asking for that as a finance committee. So we can look at salary, some of the salary lines really don't reflect what people make. They make, there's other sources, there's stipends, there's other things. And the accountant's concern has been that the W-2s are calendar year and our stuff runs fiscal year. But it still gives us, I think, a ballpark idea. A feel. So, I guess I'm asking if other people think that would be worthwhile to ask if we can have that information, or if we don't.
So do you understand, even though you may look at a line for Lisa Hart Finance Committee, I make $100. I might be getting fees from
Sure.
different things and
Yep.
I might, my W-2 might actually say make $1,000. So that's what we're looking to see with,
What do you wanna do with the information?
I wanna compare it to what we see as salaries and
because I think it's useful information when somebody says, I'm being underpaid and I need a 5% increase even though, most people are getting 2%. People do ask for more money and.
So what they actually make can be different than what we budget for.
Some of them have additional responsibilities too.
right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
still, yeah.
definitely.
I mean, the highway surveyor gets a stipend as the cemetery director and a stipend as the park, some other line.
Something.
And, there were these few years I didn't know that, and I think we need to understand that. The single biggest thing we have, that there's a lot of salaries in these lines, so. But we don't have to, it's,
No, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than in that instance, if that person goes away, the next person might not want to do all three things. So we would have to budget it separately, or at least know that we had to do that.
all right, well.
Did I not understand that correctly?
You're right, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have lines for stipends for, like the cemetery or something else, do we?
Yeah,
Well,
it's in
there,
Or is it included in some other part?
the
park department, cemetery department.
Those are almost entirely salary lines, because the work is actually, it's not, I guess, but.
No, it's not
I think it is, because the increases apply to the whole line, though, I think it might be. We'll look at the details of that when we get there.
Okay.
And I think the town clerk gets fees from
Oh, yeah.
issuing licenses, it's not, I don't mean to pick on the highways, and I think the accountant, the treasurer, or the tax collector,
Mhm.
some other.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I just think it would be good for us to know, I don't know if that's
Well,
taxable
I'm sure it would be.
income. So I'll ask, I don't know if we're gonna.
Who would you ask, Barbara?
Barbara, oh, you wanna ask? Maybe she'll say yes to
I'll ask.
it. You can tell her that we should make a motion and ask her to. No.
I don't think we need that.
Yeah.
I think it helps us understand the big picture.
Okay, we should go.
So I don't have anything to come back with you. Unless people.
I have to leave by 8:15 no matter what we're doing because I've got a date to watch Survivor with my daughter.
Well, so do you
And
want to
she's already
close this up?
DVR again.
Well, we're late, I'll come back and.
All right, I'll come back and help you.